Right now, somewhere inside Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu is moving between secure locations under some of the heaviest protection any political leader on earth receives. But according to a chilling new warning coming out of Tehran, Iranian military officials claim they already know exactly where he is. Not roughly, not approximately, exactly. A senior Iranian commander has publicly declared that Iran is closely tracking the Israeli prime minister's movements and knows the locations where he holds some of his most sensitive government meetings. The message wasn't subtle. It was direct, it was personal, and it was meant to be heard not only in Israel but across the entire world. The general's warning included a line that immediately sent shockwaves through diplomatic and intelligence circles. "We know where you are." Those 5 words are now fueling one of the most dangerous moments in the Middle East in decades. Because this isn't just political rhetoric, it's coming in the middle of an escalating regional war, massive missile exchanges, and a revenge narrative that has pushed both sides into territory that many analysts feared would eventually arrive, but hoped never would. To understand why this threat matters, you have to understand the context. The entire region is already on edge following the stunning strike that reportedly killed Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. According to multiple reports circulating across international media and intelligence discussions, the operation involved extremely precise tracking of Khamenei's movements over an extended period of time. Sources familiar with the reports claim that Israeli and American intelligence agencies spent years mapping the daily patterns around Khamenei's residence, security routines, and travel behavior. The alleged operation relied on a mix of advanced surveillance techniques, satellite monitoring, signal interception, and possibly even access to urban traffic camera networks. When the strike finally happened, it wasn't random. It came at a moment when intelligence analysts believed Khamenei was attending a confirmed meeting inside a secured compound. The attack shocked the region, not just because of who the target was, but because of what it demonstrated. It showed that even the most protected leader in Iran could still be located, tracked, and struck. And now Iran is signaling something deeply unsettling in response. According to Iranian military advisor Major General Yahya Rahim Safavi, Tehran claims it has developed its own detailed intelligence picture, not just of Israel as a country, but of the Israeli leadership itself. Safavi's statement suggested that Iran believes it now possesses a vast database of intelligence covering Israeli infrastructure, military facilities, and key political figures. But the most attention-grabbing part of his warning was focused on one person, Benjamin Netanyahu. Safavi claimed Iran knows where the Israeli prime minister spends time during sensitive government discussions and where critical security meetings take place. He suggested Iranian intelligence has been carefully studying Israeli decision-making centers and leadership movements, and he implied that Israel should not assume its leadership is untouchable. Whether those claims are exaggerated psychological warfare or based on real intelligence capabilities is impossible to confirm publicly. But the timing of the message is what makes it so explosive, because the threat came just hours after Iran launched another wave of ballistic missile strikes toward Israel. Those strikes were part of an ongoing retaliation campaign that Iranian officials say will continue as long as Israeli and American military pressure remains in place. Missile sirens echoed across several Israeli cities as interception systems scrambled to neutralize incoming projectiles. Some missiles were intercepted in midair. Others reportedly landed in populated areas, causing damage to infrastructure and residential neighborhoods. Emergency services across central Israel were placed on high alert as rescue crews moved quickly through impacted zones. At the same time, Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps released statements claiming responsibility for targeting strategic Israeli locations. Among the claims that quickly circulated online was one particularly dramatic allegation that an Iranian missile strike targeted the heavily fortified compound used by Israel's prime minister's office. Iranian state media suggested the attack involved advanced ballistic missiles designed to bypass missile defense systems, but Israel has not publicly confirmed those claims. In fact, Israeli officials have largely remained silent about whether any government facilities were directly hit during the strikes. That silence has only added more speculation and uncertainty. Some analysts believe Israel is intentionally withholding details to avoid revealing vulnerabilities. Others believe the Iranian claims may be exaggerated for propaganda purposes. But the bigger picture remains clear. The war between Israel and Iran has now moved into a far more dangerous phase, and the language being used by both sides is no longer subtle. Iranian officials are framing their retaliation as revenge for what they describe as a direct assassination of their national leadership. They argue that any nation assisting Israel's military actions is effectively participating in aggression against Iran. At the same time, Israel continues to emphasize that its military operations are aimed at neutralizing threats before they reach Israeli territory. This is where the Netanyahu threat becomes particularly significant, Because leadership targeting has always been one of the most dangerous escalatory steps in international conflict. When leaders themselves become part of the battlefield narrative, the psychological stakes change completely. The message Iran is sending right now is carefully designed. It mirrors the same logic that intelligence agencies use during covert operations. If you can track someone's movement patterns, understand their routines, and identify where they conduct critical meetings, you gain a strategic advantage. That's exactly how high-profile targeted operations have worked in the past. So when an Iranian general publicly says they know Netanyahu's location, it isn't just a threat. It's also a signal. A signal meant to suggest that Iran has learned from the very intelligence techniques used against its own leadership, and that it may now be capable of responding in similar ways. Of course, targeting the Prime Minister of Israel would be extraordinarily difficult. Netanyahu travels with some of the most sophisticated security protection in the world. Israel's internal security agency Shin Bet coordinates closely with intelligence services to maintain strict control over the Prime Minister's movements. Every location he visits is screened, routes are changed frequently, meetings are held in secure environments designed specifically to prevent surveillance. Even so, the Iranian message doesn't necessarily mean a direct assassination attempt is imminent. In modern geopolitical conflict, statements like this often serve another purpose: psychological pressure. By suggesting that Israel's leadership is being watched, Iran is trying to create a sense of vulnerability at the very top of the Israeli government. And psychological warfare can be just as powerful as military action. It forces leaders to adjust security protocols, it creates internal anxiety, and it sends a message to the public that the conflict could escalate even further. Meanwhile, Iran is also signaling confidence in its growing military capabilities. Safavi claimed Iran has dramatically expanded its arsenal of drones and ballistic missiles specifically for this confrontation. Iran has invested heavily in missile technology over the past decade, developing systems capable of traveling long distances with improved accuracy. Those weapons have already played a major role in the current escalation. Large missile barrages launched from Iranian territory and allied groups across the region have repeatedly tested Israel's air defense systems. Israel's Iron Dome and Arrow missile defense networks remain among the most advanced in the world. But even the best systems can be overwhelmed if enough projectiles are launched simultaneously. That is exactly the tactic Iran appears to be using: multi-wave missile attacks designed to saturate defensive systems. The goal isn't necessarily to destroy military infrastructure alone. It's to create pressure on Israeli leadership, pressure on international allies watching the conflict unfold. At the same time, Iranian officials are also pushing a broader narrative internationally. They argue that Israel's military operations are part of a wider regional campaign supported by the United States. Iran's foreign ministry has warned that any country assisting Israeli military efforts could be considered part of the conflict. In diplomatic language, that's a serious warning, because it opens the possibility of a much larger regional confrontation. And that's what makes the Netanyahu threat feel so dangerous. This is no longer just a war of missiles and airstrikes. It's becoming a war of leadership, intelligence, and perception. Both sides are sending messages designed to show strength. Both sides are trying to prove they cannot be intimidated. But history shows that when conflicts reach this stage, the risk of miscalculation increases dramatically. A single unexpected strike, a misunderstood intelligence report, or a political decision made under pressure. Any one of those could trigger the next escalation. For now, Israel continues to reinforce its leadership security and maintain operational silence about Iranian claims. Iran, meanwhile, continues to broadcast its message loudly: "We are watching, we know, and we will respond." Whether those words represent a real operational capability or simply a calculated psychological strategy remains one of the biggest unanswered questions in the conflict right now. But one thing is certain: the Middle East has entered a phase where intelligence warfare, leadership targeting narratives, and military retaliation are all colliding at once. And as long as those forces keep accelerating, the tensions surrounding Benjamin Netanyahu and the threats coming from Tehran are only going to grow louder.